Welcome to Sync Up, a show about OneDrive, the intelligent files app for Microsoft 365. We are your hosts, Ankita and Jason Moore. I'm Ankita Kirti, Product Manager on the OneDrive team.
And I'm Jason Moore, Director of Program Management for OneDrive. This show will take you behind the scenes of OneDrive, shedding light on how OneDrive connects you to all of your files in Microsoft 365 so you can share and work together from anywhere while protecting your work from accidental loss and malicious attacks.
Today, we are excited to have Paul Diamond and Matthew Woodget talking about how OneDrive is helpful in small and medium businesses.
So don't go away. We've got another great show for you today.
For any information worker, files are the building blocks of their work, irrespective of industry, businesses, or size of business. Files are core to what we do. Today, we are going to deep dive into small and medium business with our guests and explore how OneDrive can help SMBs achieve secure productivity. Jason, would you now introduce our guests?
Absolutely. Our guests today are Paul Diamond, Product Marketing Manager for OneDrive Personal, as well as our small and medium business OneDrive experiences. We also have Matthew Woodget, the founder of Go Narrative, which helps companies improve their team alignment, marketing engagement, and sales conversions by building narratives and optimizing messaging. Matthew, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your business?
Thank you. Absolutely. So we challenge the status quo to find a better way to clarity for our clients. What we do is we help our clients leverage the power of storytelling. I first got exposed to doing storytelling in business about a decade ago when I was hired at Microsoft to be a chief storyteller for Microsoft Dynamics. And in that process, I discovered that the tool set of storytelling for business really wasn't as well defined as it could be. And had a lot of fun at Microsoft doing storytelling in Dynamics and realized that this was something that I wanted to do beyond those four walls, as much fun as I was having there. And so I formed Go Narrative, and that's what we do. We help our clients get attention, be heard, and sell more using the power of storytelling. We help coach them on it. We help build campaigns based on storytelling, build messages, build strategic narratives. So it's not just about messaging. It's also about how you view the world, view your customers. And really, we spend a lot of time encouraging our clients to think outside in, right? Understand the customer, put them in the center.
I love the value of storytelling across all of that and looking beyond just, simple statements or facts and figures to really kind of find the story that's inherent in that. Paul, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Sure. I am the product marketing manager for OneDrive for Home and OneDrive for Small Businesses. And a lot of what I do is making sure that our messaging is consistent across all of Microsoft, making sure it's clear that customers really understand the value of OneDrive. The second thing I do is research to help get clarity on the messaging and to help get clarity on what our users want in the product.
That's great to know. Paul, talking about small businesses, in your interactions with these small businesses, what are you learning right now about their current experiences as they adapt to remote working?
Yeah, so one of the big things is many businesses have had to pivot on their messaging and on their value props and the way it relates to how we're all behaving in the pandemic. So there's good news, and the good news is that the tools are all out there for remote working, and they're not expensive, $12, $15 a month per employee. And a lot of SMBs are coming or wanting these tools for very specific things: email, file sharing, Teams. To all these things enable remote work. There's a lot of pain on the SMB front, like rent payments hurt when you're not using your office, and large corporate landlords are not too forgiving. Growth targets got adjusted downward for many. There's cost cutting, and SMBs spent a lot of cycles strategically pivoting, which meant that their carefully laid plans went by the wayside. And then there's transformation. I like to think of it as 15 years of behavior change trying to get compressed into 30 days, but that's painful. So that means like in-person meetings, business travel got replaced by screens, 1-hour commutes replaced by helping your kids school themselves in the mornings, no touch transactions, working from home, everything gets delivered. So these are all changes that affect SMBs.
Very true. Matthew, in your experience, how has this shift and everything that Paul just mentioned affected you and your organization?
I've had, and our team has a bit of an unfair advantage. You take that 15 years that Paul talks about. I've been working remotely on and off for 15 years between the US and the UK, nowadays visiting clients, obviously not nowadays, so to speak, but pre-COVID. And our team are all mostly ex-corporate folks who know the technology, who are comfortable with the technology. And I would characterize it like this. We view work as not a place you go, but something you do. And really, the location has the opportunity to blend into the background, which when there are children running around upstairs or behind you might get a bit tricky. But ultimately, the work should be able to happen anywhere.
People, I think, are still trying to adapt and grapple with this day to day. But the fact that you've been doing it so seamlessly for so many years, I think would be a great learning for some of our listeners who are still trying to figure out what's the best way out.
I really like the way you talked about how work is not a place you go. Yeah. It's something you do. Like that phrase, I think that's really great. And I was curious, Matthew, as you think about like the different scenarios that are just part of the way you work with organizations, whether it's building messaging and campaigns or coming up with strategies and the storytelling. I was curious, this is the OneDrive podcast. How are files core to your work? Can you give us a bit of an overview of your day-to-day with files and where it shows up in your usage?
We are swimming in files and PowerPoint, Word, PDFs, PNGs. I think that next to Microsoft, we're a Microsoft shop. Next to Microsoft, we're also an Adobe shop. So with the Adobe Creative Cloud, there's a lot of great integration between Microsoft and Adobe. But we're swimming in files, and really our workflow has got 3 steps to it. The first is free form, creativity. And the second is the sort of blueprinting and the addition of structure. And then the third part is the actual generation of deliverables, right? And those deliverables could be for clients or they could be for the business. And for me, what's really important is that the technology goes into the background. It's not a million miles away from saying that work isn't a place you go, it's a thing you do. The tools should also not be a thing you have to worry about. They should be there. A good tool is an extension of you and gives you extra ability, right? Mm-hmm. A wrench enables you to get that extra leverage on that nut to turn it and to get it off, to get it off the bolt. And the tools should do the same. So that first step for us is very freeform. I've been using OneNote since 2003.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
I actually recently, I'm a journalist, as in write a journal every day. And occasionally I'll go back and I'll dip into the past. And about a year ago, I was dipping back into 2003 and I found an entry where I commented on this amazing tool that I discovered, OneNote, and that I think it's going to be a really useful tool for working. And I use it all day, every day. I use it on my phone. Brilliant on an iPad Pro with a stylus. And so that's the free form. It's like getting the ideas out, like drawing on the whiteboard as well, and then taking pictures with OneNote, having that all in one place. And then I can share those if as necessary with the team. And then the second step is like moving into the OneDrive space. And it's getting those files, put together, sharing them with the team internally, being able to set the expiration date on a link. So I know, especially if it's our client's IP, that isn't going to be linked out there forever, that I can curtail that. And then the third step really is the icing on the cake. And at that point, we're shifting into team space where we're controlling the relationship with our team, any contractors that are involved, our client, all those permissions, and then able to both collaborate, but also deliver those final files, the presentations, the keynotes, the scripts in Word, whatever it happens to be.
Oh, that's awesome. I really like the kind of the stages you walked through of how the team works, the free form to the blueprinting to the generation of those deliverables and how each of the tools kind of goes along. But I need to hear you starting in OneNote. Like we do a lot of the planning and keep all kind of track of the notes for the show in OneNote, so I can go back and look at what we've done in previous episodes, for example. So it's very near and dear to my heart on that. Okay, that's awesome. I'm glad you were able to tell us. Ankita, I think you had a question for Paul, though.
Yeah. So Matthew mentioned a lot of features, and yes, file sharing, expiration link, and the fact that you can collaborate on documents are all extremely important and necessary for our day-to-day work. But Paul, from your perspective, what are the other OneDrive features that you think can be really helpful to small businesses?
Yeah, so some big ones, version history. If somebody goes in there and makes an edit or somehow deletes a file, it is all your past edits are there in version history, which I think saves a lot of people a lot of headaches sometimes. And then just the fact that your files are online, that if your device stops working, if you lose your device, you can always go access them. It gives a lot of peace of mind. Document scanning is another big one with the OneDrive app. If you get a document you need to sign, you just scan it, sign it with your finger right on the screen, and share it back. Then I think another thing, and maybe it's a more long-term consideration, is that once you have OneDrive or SharePoint, you can consider getting rid of an on-premise file server. And it's not for every small business, but, a majority of small businesses can really consider that. And getting rid of the maintenance and the costs associated with on-premise servers is a big deal.
Matthew, does any of these features affect you or your team in day-to-day's job?
Absolutely. I love the fact that Paul mentions version history, because I'm a chronic date stamp file namer, and it's been a journey over the past, I think probably the past year or so. Like I'm forcing myself and the team encouraging, I should say, to use the version history. And I'm getting more and more used to doing that. I do still find myself having a little archive off to the side sometimes where I'll save some previous versions of snapshots just in case.
This is that old habit, right? Like these are hard things to change, right? So for sure.
They are hard things to change. And I think one of the huge benefits of the version history, though, is it's just there in the document, right? You don't have, because it's always like, I do year hyphen month hyphen date. That's kind of like been my forever. And I'm a photographer. We have an on-premises file server because of the photography, and we've got 10 terabytes of photography in the cloud. So that's a little bit of an edge case for us, because everything else we want it to be online. And the thing is once you have those files online, then you have to have an agreement of the file structure. So I might approach it with that way I described. Jonathan on our team approaches it in a slightly different way, but we don't have to worry about that when it melts into the background with the version history. So I'm learning to love it. And if anybody out there isn't using it yet, it's really cool.
I think that's a great example of how that kind of comes about. And, to the point of that agreement of naming and how those things work, that's always a fascinating one to me. Lately, in the last year or so, I've taken to using a lot of emoji in file names, which I love to do. It's really fun to kind of browse through my OneDrive or folders and just see the emojis in the file names. But it is a head scratcher for folks who aren't yet comfortable with the notion that there might be an emoji in a file name. I certainly enjoy the heck out of it. So, okay, I think that's actually really interesting to kind of go through those. I'm curious, maybe less about the kind of feature capabilities that you're directly taking advantage of, but, Matthew, are there kind of like any top 3 kind of tricks that you've learned with OneDrive that you think other small and medium businesses might benefit from?
Absolutely. And I'll give you a bonus tip or trick first up, and that is, as you know, Jason, the Windows semicolon key. If you want to be putting emojis in your file names, that's a little key combo that's very useful that exists in Windows 10. So that's fun. So I think sending expiration of links, I mentioned that one. That was a real game changer for me, because we have confidentiality agreements with our clients, and we take those very seriously. And we want to protect their data, and we want to adhere to our NDAs. And we do rely also on contractors, whether it's a designer or a writer or, fill in the blank. So it's very, very important for us. And they're all under NDA as well. But the ability to know that we can securely do that, and it was so easy to do up in the beauty of the M365 portal, is how easy it is to navigate around and do stuff in. And so setting those expiration dates, that's my trick number 1.
Yeah.
The second is, with OneDrive, the ability to seamlessly switch back and forth between my many, many decades old Hotmail account, which I still use to drive my personal Windows and Microsoft, everything, from Xbox to OneNote, and then the work one, and easily within the app switching between those two things. And so that's super helpful because life and work are so blended, right? Being able to blend that with the technology is really nice as well. And then here's one that is like so important, less so right now because I'm not finding myself on a client's premises, right?
Right.
But there's going to be a time when this happens again, when I have that 65 meg PowerPoint presentation and I need it to be on my machine. And so the ability to have files, to force files to stay on my machine is the perfect bedfellow for all the files being visible and available, but in the cloud, which is great as well. Right. But then be able to say, I want this file on my machine. And I do that every time we're going to go to an event and do a presentation or to a client's location, all the necessary files, make sure they're on the machine. And I think that's super helpful. You're not scrambling to, what's your Wi-Fi code before the presentation kicks off? Oh, no, I haven't got the file downloaded. Because you do that one time.
Mm-hmm. You do that a long time and you learn. Yeah. Well, and I love the point here as well, which is it lets you be prepared and be in control of how you're going to come across with your client, how you're set up, how you can just be confident and not have to worry about any of those things. And I really respect the heck out of the need to kind of know that, especially, if it's your livelihood, you want to make sure things are there and you're going to be able to rely on them. I thought those are some great tips. Do you have any others you wanted to share?
Oh, crikey. It's, I think, one of the things that really strikes me is it's not so much about the features as it is, again, to go back to what I said earlier, things need to melt into the background. Like where you are shouldn't matter. The tools shouldn't matter, right? Now, that doesn't mean that they're not important. It doesn't mean that having a roof over your head is important. They are. But when it comes to focusing on getting things done, the best tools are the tools which are an extension of you, because ultimately it's not about the tools.
No, for sure.
It's about what we're trying to get done. And it's in our personal life, it's being connected. It's about contributing to whatever we're involved in, right? Whether you're involved with your kids' clubs, like we're doing scouts online on Teams, or it's your church and you're involved with, through that, there's all sorts of things we're seeking to do to drive connection and meaning in our lives. And nowadays that's all remote. And so to Paul's point about this 15 years compressed into 3 months, it's very true. And so for me, it's more about, I like tools which are going to give me the ability to make those connections, to get that stuff done, whether that's, obviously we've talked about work, but also on the personal side, because at the end of the day, and we do this a lot with storytelling, it's about connecting, it's about emotions, it's about how you feel. And when you've got just a super tool that melts into the background and enables you to get stuff done and be successful in whatever it is that you want to do, that for me is what I look for. And that's why I'm so pleased nowadays, in particular with the Microsoft suite of products.
That's awesome. Paul, first, I noticed you moved around. That was very exciting to see. We got to
Did you get kicked out in real time?
That's
there was construction outside the window. So
I'm so sorry.
Moved to the other side of the house.
Thank you for thinking about the audio here. Did you have any other tips that you wanted to share, Paul?
So one other tip that I would recommend for SMBs is a feature of OneDrive called Known Folder Move. And what this does is when you enable it for yourself as admin or for all the users on your account, it keeps all the files in 3 of your folders in sync with OneDrive. And those folders on a Windows 10 device are desktop, documents, and pictures. So anything you create or change within those folders is synced with OneDrive, and it gives you incredible peace of mind to just know that those files are available on OneDrive.
Yeah, I feel that's an important feature. I mean, it's been quite some time that we've released this feature, and we've heard great feedback from customers around the globe as to how it's helped. Because a lot of times it's very easy for users to come to their admins and say that we've lost our documents that we saved in my documents, and now how do we get them? It's easy for admins to now solve that problem proactively by making sure that all of them are actually directed to OneDrive. So yeah, that's a great call out, Paul.
And it reminds me of a story, this feature, this capability, which is awesome, hearing about it, learning about it real time. So thank you. Reminds me of whenever my father would buy my mother a new PC, the priority act that he had was to make sure her desktop looked exactly the same on the new computer.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All the files, the wallpaper, everything. Because your desktop, if you're, especially as a PC user, it's kind of your life. Your, with your machine, it's like, these are the things
most users use the working set.
Exactly. And so knowing that that's never lost, knowing that that's always protected, knowing that that is going to be in sync across everything, that's some magic right there. That's really cool.
Yeah. KFM or known folder move is mostly a term for IT, right? It's an admin kind of tool and capability, but the notion of this kind of branded experience that talks about the, that customer value in it is super powerful.
Going to the next question, Matthew, you spoke about how narrative is more about emotions and how you feel. And I guess narratives help brands make an emotional connection to its customer. And since you're the expert here on this, we don't always think about emotions in relation to cloud storage. So I would love some insight here. Do you think we are emotionally connected to a cloud storage even without knowing?
Absolutely. And again, it's this concept of melting into the background. We actually talk about this with storytelling. I'm a big fan of saying storytelling isn't storytelling. Storytelling is an artifact of how our brains work. It's the structure within our brains. And again, it's like, it shouldn't matter where you're working. The tools should facilitate what you're doing, and the best tools should win for that, because we don't pick up any tool to do anything apart from achieve something we want. And what we want is processed in our limbic brain. It's where our decisions are made. It's where we connect emotionally with each other. The neocortex is where we process language and data and so on and so forth. Really, what we're seeking at every step of the way is to A, survive, and then B, to thrive. And our ability to feel good about doing something, whether it's helping somebody else, whether it's achieving something, whether it's learning something, whether it's solving a problem, all of those acts result in us feeling better about who we are and what we're doing. And if you can't get that done, then you can't get to a place where you feel that. And so tools should facilitate that. So cloud storage does relate to emotions. And this is something that for any technology is really to keep this in mind. People don't wake up in the morning saying, gotta buy me some OneDrive, right? People wake up in the morning thinking, like, what am I going to do to solve one of those things we just talked about? And
we do hope sometimes that they wake up that way, just to be fair. If you woke up that way today and you're listening, I am ready and here to help you.
Jason wakes up like that every day.
Keep going, Matthew.
Got to upgrade my subscription to OneDrive today. We've run out of storage space. Yeah, no, but I think that's really, the beauty of the cloud and getting away from being kind of anchored in any one device is really where this magic starts to happen. I mean, we've got some pretty powerful machines. Like you've got a relatively new workstation for doing our photography and video work. I personally use an X1 Carbon Lenovo laptop with a 4K screen. Like I need the power to have a high fidelity, enjoyable experience. But I also don't want to worry about the work getting lost. And that is, if your objective is to solve somebody's problem, to help somebody, to achieve something, to learn something, whatever it is, anything that gets in the way of that is going to make you feel bad. Right. And so, yeah, cloud storage is a gateway to feeling better about our lives, because it's a facilitator to help us get things done and to never lose things and to know where things are, no matter what piece of hardware on, whether it's a powerful thing, a phone or whatever.
That's valuable. We are going to begin. I'm going to personally, sorry, Jason. I was just saying I'm going to begin our next event saying exactly this line, the way you ended, how emotionally connected we can be to cloud storage. That's so valuable. Sorry, Jason, what were you saying?
What I was going to just add on there, Matthew, because I really love the way you said that is, maybe we got it wrong. Maybe we got it wrong calling it cloud storage. And really what you described was something more like coming out into the sunlight and, kind of feeling the warmth and the wonder that comes with having that peek through. Maybe it's just because here in Redmond, we know our clouds. But I do feel like there's an opportunity to think about how that language should evolve. So thank you for that. Okay, last question before our kind of a little fun question to end out the day. We've talked a lot about, OneDrive in this kind of commercial and small, medium business space for folks out there that are listening on that. But we're also responsible for OneDrive that people use at home. And Paul, I know, as the marketing manager for that, you have, a lot of insights to it. I was wondering if you could each give us maybe a scenario about how you use OneDrive in your personal lives. Paul, do you want to start?
Yeah. So the feature that I use most is the automatic camera roll backup. So it saves every picture I take on my phone. I think of myself as having, I used to be a photographer. I take all the family pictures. I feel like I have hundreds of thousands of images. I probably don't, but I've only used 100 gigabytes of my 1 terabyte. And I love being able to just access those images on my PC, throw them on the TV, look at them on my phone.
That's awesome. How about you, Matthew?
Well, I can't resist a bit of technology one-upmanship with Paul there. And also being a photographer and having 10 terabytes of photos. For me, I think, one of the things that I always need to know where they are is tax documents. And, as a small business owner, it's even more important now, obviously, but it's always been the case, right? And first of all, it was simply just using OneDrive. And of course, now you've also got the vault, right? The personal vault. But having that place where I know no matter what device I'm on, that I can save the PDF from, the accountant. I can scan the document with my phone and save it to OneDrive in the kitchen, and having all of those and being fast on it, knowing that there's no resistance, there's no chore I've got to do later on because I'm saving it. So every receipt, every charity receipt, everything, I know it's there, and tax season rolls around. It's I know it's all aligned. And that for me is just something that's pervasive in my life. I use OneDrive for all sorts of other stuff. We've got photos on there, and use it for all sorts of documents, obviously. But that tax one, and knowing that that's safe and it's clear, and I don't have to worry about it, that's a big deal for me.
Yeah, no,
Matthew, I have a question. How do you feel? What emotion do you have when you're saving that tax document to OneDrive?
Relief.
Relief.
Yeah, that I'm not going to have to worry about being stressed looking for that document in the future. Mm-hmm. It's relief.
Yeah, that's I totally get that. It's a funny one because it's one that I think, you may think about, it's difficult to intellectualize, but when you feel that, it's like a burden being lifted off your chest, and it's just easier to breathe. All right, well, thank you both very much for being on Sync Up today. It's been just awesome to have you. It's been really fascinating to listen to the two of you. We always like to have a fun question to close out. Today, we've got a question that I think could be a lot of fun, also could be a lot of help and a lot of relevance. So, obviously a lot of folks right now are thinking about things like Thanksgiving or Christmas and winter holidays and all the other celebrations people are doing, and the fact that so many of them can't see each other in person. They, just not able to in the current conditions. What's a fun thing that you do over a video conferencing call, whether you're using Teams or something else, with friends and family? Maybe maybe you have a weekly get together, you have video conference poker, but whatever it is, especially going into this holiday, what is something you'd recommend as a fun thing to do over call for folks, to kind of connect with friends and family?
Yeah. So one thing we did that was just so much fun is we hired a magician to give the whole family a magic show. We could all dial in on Teams, and he learned our names, virtually pulled each one of us up on stage. It was so fun.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh my gosh. How do I join your family? I want to be part of that. Ankita, how about you?
I can't top that. But yeah, I think with my mom, we've cooked sometimes, although our time zones are different. So if I'm cooking dinner, she's cooking breakfast. But that's something we've done. And yeah, I mean, yesterday I was actually going through Airbnb experiences who, like this magician, Paul, they have a lot of experiences that you can do with your family virtually. Which I'm thinking to explore and do something. Like there's people from Italy that'll teach you how to cook pasta if you just like it. They were really interesting stuff. So if anyone's interested, they can check that out if they're like me who've not done anything fun.
Matthew, how about you?
similar to the work isn't a place you go, it's a thing you do, is having a drink isn't a place you go, it's something you do. And whether that's a pint or it's a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, the thing I like about actually using Teams, for example, is I can set up that future pint or coffee with a friend, and then it doesn't matter where I am. If I happen to be at my PC, I do it there. If I'm on my phone, I can do it there. And then my son's really into Among Us, right? The latest craze, and we've got him set up so that he can have a Teams interaction with his friends whilst he's playing it, and they also have a little Teams chat that they have on their school instance of Teams, where they actually will coordinate, and they'll use Teams to coordinate when they're going to play Among Us. So that was fun to help him out with. So
that's awesome. I love that we're participating in these things in people's lives. It's so interesting to think about, 20 years from now when he's looking back, how that will be part of his experience growing up. I've done a little bit of the same. I've done used a lot of the You Don't Know Jack, the games that they've evolved, and done that where I'll connect my PC and, all my friends will call in, and then we'll use our phones to answer questions and play quizzes and that kind of stuff. Has been a lot of fun. But one of the ones I've enjoyed the most was a group of friends. We had a class on making pastries and really on pastry decoration. And so we sent, everyone got all the basic package to do piping and, all the kinds of different designs and patterns and cutouts and everything. And we just spent, an hour and a half making cupcakes and then eating them. Led by an actual professional teaching us, some of the technique to put things together and how to make things that were fun out of that decorating. And that was awesome because I love sugar, and also awesome because it's just a fun thing, to watch everybody on camera kind of messily trying to make the duck on top of the cupcake or whatever. Yeah, I thought that was a ton of fun. I loved all of the suggestions, all of the ideas, all the experiences you had. I will say I am so jealous of Paul.
Yeah.
Clearly, he is doing great. So, folks, hopefully, if you are looking for some ideas or fun things that you can be doing this holiday season, something here tickled your fancy. And maybe we've just had a massive impact and a rise of online magicians getting some opportunity and work out of all that.
I have one more question for Matthew. Matthew, I've been seeing that director's chair behind you throughout our recording, and I really want to know more about it. I read on your website that you were involved in the film industry as well for a long time. Share something with us.
So I have an award-winning film that I actually made when I was at Microsoft called Flavor and Fuel, a story of modern craftsmanship, which explores an F1 team and a brewery, and how whilst these are very different businesses, that they're all ultimately fueled by the same passions and desires, all just pointing in slightly different directions. The director's chair is actually was an internal award that I got at Microsoft for that film. But the film actually, we won film festivals as far afield as the Jaipur Film Festival in India, for example. There was, I think, lost track. I think it was 16, 18 film festivals or so that we won short documentary awards for. One artifact of storytelling is the movies.
So cool.
That's so cool. Yeah.
Well, thank you both for your time on the show today. It's been great having you on. I think it's been awesome just to listen to kind of the ideas and experiences that you've had. Folks want to find out more about you or follow you online. Where can they do that, Matthew?
GoNarrative.com is a really great place to stop by, have a chat with our storybot, which will look a lot like me. You'll get some free storytelling advice. And then I'm also pretty active on Twitter. If you search for Matthew Woodget, you'll find me at Matt Woodget. And then on LinkedIn as well. I'd love to connect with you and hear how you're trying to apply storytelling in business, and got a bunch of resources you can access through our blog and so on that can be helpful with that.
Awesome. And Paul?
So yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm at Paul K. Diamond.
Well, thank you both again for being on the show. It's been absolutely lovely having you here today.
Thank you so much for having us on the show. I really appreciate the opportunity, and thanks everybody for listening in.
Yeah, thanks, Jason and Ankita. I think I'm going to join you guys more often.
We want want to take a moment to thank other shows that have been great supporters of Sync Up. These are the shows and people that not only share our love for asking guests silly questions about their favorite snacks, they are also passionate about discovering and questioning the latest in technology and finding the best balance of technology in life and work.
Yeah, I've loved these shows since before we even started ours. And you could even say they inspired me to start Sync Up with you, Ankita. Big thanks to the folks at Clockwise, at Automators, and at Test Drivers, and all of their listeners. If you like Sync Up, we guarantee you're going to be interested in these shows too. So search for them wherever you get your podcasts. Now, it's time for us to share with listeners our latest feature releases.
Yes. So last month, one of our most talked about features, which is file sharing integration in Microsoft Teams, started rolling out. So all your familiar experiences of sharing in OneDrive and SharePoint and Outlook is now being extended to Teams as well. And talking about Teams, you can now store your Teams meetings and call recordings directly in OneDrive and SharePoint. So that's pretty cool. And lastly, our new first-run experience now allows you to basically do known folder moves. So it can allow you to select Windows known folders you would like to sync with your OneDrive. So Jason, what do you have for us as a topic this month?
Well, with the holidays coming up, whether you're fortunate enough to be with friends and family in person or over some telecommunications device, I wanted to share a note on compliments, and I think it's equally useful at work.
Okay, why compliments?
In our roles, and I think this is generally true for our listeners, we have times and moments where we need to give feedback or share a perspective. And doing this well is pretty hard. Although I think it all kind of can come pretty easily, because who doesn't notice where others fall short of the mark? We all know how to kind of pick out the flaws and challenges that we see in others or in others' work. And personally, for me, nitpicking is one of my top 5 favorite activities, so I'm no stranger to it.
Noticed a little bit.
Well, that's why complimenting is so powerful. It reverses the perspective of engagement with others from finding flaws, which, ostensibly is to fix them, but we know how hard it is for any of us to accept critical feedback, and focuses on the power of praise.
And yeah, Jason, that is very true. I mean, when you pick up, I've seen this personally, like when you pick up projects that are kind of above your level, which are these big end-to-end projects, and if you receive the right praise, the right compliments, the right encouragement, more than praises and compliments, it really lifts your spirit and it really makes you want to do better. It really makes you work harder to get better at what you're doing. And just, it's really, really helpful if you get the right kind of encouragement or even constructive criticism. I don't know if it works with compliments here, but it's always helpful.
For sure. And, it's interesting because study after study shows just how powerful leading with praise is. And that's held true across studies for raising children, training dogs. If you ever watched, these dog shows and the trainers, the positive praise, the treats, et cetera, are all part of that. Or even encouraging hospital workers, they'll see increased rates of healthcare quality outcomes. It's, in fact, more powerful than focusing on the negative or even punishment if you go read the literature.
I have seen my friends train their dogs, and it was very interesting for me whenever they used to make him do anything and just hand over treat or not hand over. That's how I got him to like me as well. By handing over treat. So yeah.
I'd be okay if you showed up to the podcast recording with treats. I'm just saying, something to consider for the future. But that's exactly the positive reinforcement is so powerful for building the mental connection there. And I was thinking about this in conjunction with the holidays and the time we spend with others in person or virtually. And it's just worth considering how we're sharing what we appreciate and how we're actually able better to encourage the things we want. And that applies equally at work.
Okay, I am bought in. So how do you think our listeners can implement this, put into practice?
Well, I think there's 4 important parts that go into landing praise or compliment. They're all about helping someone connect the words and the intent you have behind them. To maximize the impact, you want to be authentic. You want to explain what is motivating the recognition. You want to be specific. You want to be able to make clear what you saw or you heard or you experienced. And you want to process it, and you want to be able to understand what it took for them to do what they did, that you recognize and acknowledge the effort they put into that. And then finally, you want to discuss the impact. You want to explain how that impacted you or others.
Yeah, I think impact is really, really important. part of all of this. So, okay, let me give that a whirl then. Jason, I really appreciate you showed up on time to record the podcast today. I know you're very busy. It made it easier for all of us to deliver and get to our next projects on time. So for everyone who always thinks that I make fun of Jason, here I'm complimenting him on record.
You nailed it. That's exactly right. No, that was excellent. There was authentic. You were specific. The process was there, and you explained the impact. So I thought that was a great example.
Yeah, for listeners, also Jason did script this. So,
but you meant the words. You said them with your heart.
Yes, I did. Thanks, Jason. We can all put a little practice into how we deliver compliments and praise to encourage others. So yeah, this holiday season, give it a try. Thank you to our guests, Paul Diamond and Matthew Woodget. To learn more about OneDrive and the latest developments, please follow our tech community blog at aka.ms/OneDrive/blog.
And please do send us your questions and feedback. You can reach us on Twitter at OneDrive, at Jasmo, and at Ankita_Kirti21. And definitely visit our show page for links, resources, and more at aka.ms/syncup. That's SYNCUP. Subscribe to and follow the show wherever you get your podcasts. If you enjoy SyncUp, tell others what you've learned from the show. Word of mouth is still the best way for people to learn about new podcasts and new information. And if you're curious about other cool shows by Microsoft, go to aka.ms/Microsoft/podcasts. There's something for everyone.
Thank you for listening to SyncUp, a show about OneDrive, the intelligent files app for Microsoft 365. We are your hosts, Ankita Kirti and Jason Moore. We'll catch up with you next month.